They conducted an exercise, a so-called war game, to plot out how Iran would react and what that would mean for Americans. And joining us now, we're Republican Congresswoman Michele Bachmann of Minnesota, the former Republican presidential candidate. Congressman, thanks very much for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
Are you just back from Israel? You met with the top leadership there, including the Prime Minister, the leadership of the intelligence community in Israel. You're a member of the House Intelligence Committee. You saw the story in the Times talking about war games and potentially what would happen if the Israelis launched a strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. A classified war simulation held this month to assess the repercussions of an Israeli attack on Iran forecasts that the strike would lead to a wider regional war, which could draw in the United States and leave hundreds of Americans dead, according to American officials. That's from the New York Times. Is that the impression you have as someone who studied this and met with the Israelis? Are they close to doing this?
Well, of course, that they're going to keep those cards fairly close to the vest. But I think that Israel's made it very clear. Iran has continued unimpeded for decades in their quest to have a nuclear weapon that they have announced repeatedly they will use to wipe Israel off the map. And it's very simple. All Iran has to do is accede to the request by the UN and stop enriching uranium. They refuse to do that. And they really should do four things. They should stop enriching uranium. They should surrender the uranium that they have now. Then they should close their facility at Fordo, their nuclear facility, and they should agree to continuous inspections, which they refuse to do.
But they're allowed to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes.
But there's credible evidence right now that at Parshin, for instance, which is southwest of Tehran, that there is a military facility that is being used right now potentially for nuclear work. And they refuse to open this facility up to the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. They need to open that up. The world needs to know that this is peaceful. If Iran is telling the truth that this is peaceful, then they need to be transparent and accountable to the world community and open up their facilities. To this point, Iran has been unwilling to do that.
You know about the debate in the U.S. intelligence community whether or not there's evidence that the Iranians are actually right now trying to build a bomb.
Well, that's something where there is a disagreement of opinion, but his agreement is the fact that Iran does have capability. They've proved they know how to enrich uranium. They can take it up fairly quickly once they get to a 20% level of enrichment. It takes very little to take it up to plus 90%. That can be done. It appears they have the means and the capability, and they've said repeatedly what they will do with that weapon. The question is, they're unlikely to issue a memo so that we can all see when they're about to begin that process. And that's a risk that Israel doesn't know that they can take because Iran, it appears, is now moving its work into a deep underground facility where no one can get to it.
Based on all the information you got when you were in Israel, how much time realistically is left?
Well, I think really it's a matter of when Iran wants to start the clock, when they make that decision. And as I said, no one suffers under the illusion that Iran will make a public announcement. Now they're going to make a nuclear weapon.
Do you think the Israelis are anytime soon, within the next few weeks or months, are going to launch some sort of strike?
They'll make that assessment on their own, what they need to do. I think they've been very clear that if they will act independently if they need to protect their sovereignty, their safety, and the security of their people. Again, remember, it is a much shorter flight to go from Tehran to Jerusalem than it is from Tehran to Washington, D.C. And so I think right now Israel's looking out for their people and for their sovereignty.
Let's talk about